Me, Joel.
Yeah.
I guess you're off the hook, Jeff. Welcome to Practical Shooting After Dark. This is your adults only practical shooting podcast.
I'm
There's
trying to be
actually
careful not to say anything
couple,
crazy.
a couple friends of mine, they're like, yeah, my kids listen to that, and their kids are like 13. What the fuck, man? You can't let your kid listen to that. What kind of parent are you? What's wrong with you? Terrible parenting. Anyway, you guys know the rules. Everybody comes here with a topic, something interesting to talk about. Maybe you did something neat for shooting this week. You got something to show and tell, talk about. Something triggered you. I can only imagine what that'll be, Jeff. No, Jeff's
Oh,
off.
just you wait.
Yeah, Jeff's off the hook for a topic this show, guys, because he's busy with other things. It's okay. Anyway, on deck today we have Mr. Hwancha Kim.
Hello. Hi.
Hi. We have Mr. Joel Park.
Hello, everyone.
And we have Mr. Jeff Chang.
Hello.
Oh, man, all my bros on the podcast. So good. Except for Hopkins. That dude's been suspiciously absent for a while.
I don't know, I miss Matt.
I miss him too. Irritating. All right. Who'd like to lead off? Mr. Kim, I understand you have
Yes,
something
I have a good
interesting.
news.
All right, you have good news.
Yes, it's a very good news for many people. So, this year, Walther is bumping up with the contingency program and also launching already launched by now. It's a program called Shoot It, Love It, Buy It. So first, let me start off with the contingency program. The contingency program is something that Walther started 2 years ago. Basically, if you compete with Walther, any Walther gun up above level 3 match, they're doing a payouts. But this year, they're broadening up to level 2 match as well. So any level 2 that has more than 250 shooters, any match that's above level 2. So even if it's not included in the list on the Walther website, which is like area matches and nationals, it's also included if it's a 250 plus. So there's already a couple matches, like one in California, Golden Bullets, 260, and like the Magnus Cup, blah, blah, blah. So if you compete with Walther, there's a good payout. And there's another thing. So the new program that's coming out, that already came out, is basically you can buy it, but you can return it within 30 days for free, and they will even give you the shipping label. So basically, if you don't like it, you decide to return it in 30 days, then you're not losing any money. So that's a
Wow.
great program. Yes, if you want to try like the carry gun or competition gun, any like that, yes, it's gonna be a good deal. Basically, you just order it, get it from your FFL, shoot. If you like it, keep it, pay it. If you don't like it, just return it basically.
Does your FFL have to ship it back then, I'm assuming?
Uh, I No, I think the shipping label, you just go to UPS or something like that, right?
Gotcha.
But
Okay.
I don't know the specifications yet. I didn't read all of them. But
Okay.
basically, you can return it in 30 days for free.
Wow.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah, and steel frame came out, so
and the steel frames were part of that program?
I think so. I think all the Walther products.
Are the steel frame guns
As far as I
limited on
know.
quantity right now? Do you know? Are they easy to get or not?
Yes. Right now, you can't get it because it's all sold out. But literally every month there will be shipments.
Sure.
Okay.
Well, if you want to try one, there you go.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
Ben, what do you want to talk about?
Well, you fed me a topic because I've been not very diligent with my show prep, which I haven't done.
How dare you, sir?
Yeah. Well, let's talk about how drills get created, or I should say, how drills get created properly. What would you say about that, Joel? Is
I
that-
think that'd be very interesting.
Yeah, it would be. Okay, so I've been giving this some thought, and I think there's two basic schools of drill. Okay, number one is like some sort of a test where it doesn't necessarily come from you, but usually it comes from the community or it comes from other people, and it's like, hey, do this thing in this time with these points. This is some test you've got to pass. And then being a type A competitive person, you kind of figure out how to make that happen, whatever that is. So I remember when I started shooting, it's like doing a build drill was something I assigned some importance to. It's like, I got to figure this out, how to get the gun out that fast and shoot full fast and hit the center of the target at close range. Like that seemed like something for me to figure out and something to do. So that'd be one way of going at it. There's advantages and disadvantages to that, but that's one way. The other way, and this is something that this would be the sort of drills that I do in a class setting, is coming up with some way to stress or some way to test some skill or set of skills, like a really specific thing. Come up with a drill that works on that, and you give, we're just assessing very specific points, but there's maybe not necessarily an objective measure of what would be good. So an example there would be if you're doing a transitions drill, like basic vanilla transitions, there's not some specified time limit. As far as the way I write that drill, there's not a specified time limit. Instead, it'd be more subjective measures, like is the gun going to where it should go and stopping in that spot, or are you swinging the gun past the target and having it come back, that sort of stuff. So it's more subjective in terms of the measurement, where a guy looking at it would grade it, as opposed to it being just the time, just points.
It's like not pass or fail necessarily. You're trying to improve a skill.
Yeah, it's
right?
Not,
Is that correct?
Yeah, correct. It's not ever, you don't ever really pass in the sense that you never have to think about it again and not work on it again. And there's definitely no fail if you do the drill and the points you're assessing don't look right, that's actually kind of good, because that means you have some low-hanging fruit that you could pretty easily improve. It's actually kind of a good thing. We're looking for that. We're looking for you've stressed your skills, and now you can work on it.
So if you're coming up with, let's just use 4 aces as an example.
Yeah.
So do you decide okay, I want to do a gun handling drill, and then what do you go from there? You think about
I can tell you how that one happened. Is hey, we need a way to building the standard exercise, as I recall, is building the standard exercise, standard practice setup for the first skills and drills. I think this was 2013 I was writing this. And it was, okay, let's set up the El Pres array, 3 targets. Okay, what drills can we do on that? We're going to be testing draws, reloads, close transitions, that sort of stuff. What drills can we do on that? And I just listed out a bunch of drills that we could do, and then within the kind of the general theory of the standard practice setup, at each distance there'd be a draw time you could expect, reload times that the top guys were doing, and split times that you could expect. And then I just applied that stuff to the 4 aces. So draws a specific time, reload, and then splits again. Does that make sense? And then I kind of colored the time limits at different distances based on real world factors, or what you'd expect real world to happen.
And then you changed, because it used to be you had a gold, silver, and bronze type of time limit, and now you just give the time limit this. You'd be a baller if you hit this time.
Yeah, that's actually true. So I did in the old days. Had a dry fire manual. The first one that I put out, the first printed one I put out, I should say, there was tiers of beginner, intermediate, advanced. I don't remember what I called it. I think it was that. But
I think so too.
That went away because people would be like, well, I'm in B class, so that's pretty intermediate, so I'll just use the intermediate times.
So we're self-imposing a ceiling on what they were able to do.
Yeah, it would be that's the time limit, and that's what I'm going to do. and then people would be just kind of hanging out in these like bitch made, I would say, times. So that I thought that that was kind of counterproductive. I
Yeah.
felt like I was giving people a crutch, so that went away. Like I changed that.
So how do you come up with the baller times then? So like let's just where we're using four aces, like do you do it yourself? Are you like, okay, this is what I'm capable of?
Well, yeah, I do it myself, but I'm also looking at what the community's doing and also looking
Okay.
at classifiers and other standard exercises. So, for example, it's generally accepted that if a guy's like like pretty well trained, pretty good, and he's on point, you're going to be able to draw the gun and get that first shot off in about a second at 7 yards, right?
Right?
So that'd be a time like you've been around a while. You're like, yeah, that's been kind of yeah, some guys can do it faster if they're really pushing. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
sure, there's some really good guys that aren't real quick on the draw. Maybe they're a little slower than that. But about a second, that's about right. About zero point 0.2 seconds for splits, generally accepted. It should be at, about that if you're shooting quickly. Again, you'd just be like, yeah, that sounds about right.
Yep.
And then you just have to so you look at times in that way where what the experiences in the community and the times that you hear frequently repeated for those things, you I take that into account. That kind of colors things, and then the more important thing with four aces, the example you're giving is that you're stringing together a good draw. I mean, doing air quotes for the audio people. A good draw. You're putting
Uh-huh.
that with a good reload and good splits. You have to do it all together. It's not just one piece of it. You got to do all the pieces at once, which is really hard.
So that adjusts the time that you pick. Whereas if you just did like
Yeah.
gun up, hammer back on target, and just load the gun and get it back on target, then it's going to be a tighter time limit because you don't have to string things together. Is that fair or no?
No, that is fair. No, it would be, that is way easier. The more stuff you're stringing together, the harder it is.
Okay.
Yeah. So that'd be how I come up with those times. And then over the course of time, those things get adjusted. So for example, I think I sent it to you actually. Today I was fucking around with the version of doubles drills that's going to
Yes.
go and break through marksmanship.
Yes, I was nitpicking you exactly.
Right. Did you notice that the table?
I did notice.
Did you see anything different?
Yes, you'd adjusted the times.
I adjusted the times and the accuracy standard. So
Hmm.
my editor, who is a lovely person, kind of a bitch actually, but a good editor.
I don't believe that for a second.
No, she's super.
Yeah.
Just cut and paste the table out of skills and drills because they didn't know what else to put in there because I didn't give any time standard.
Uh-huh.
So I looked at that table. I'm like, this has changed a lot in the last few years. So went in there and I adjusted everything to what I thought it should be. And and again, that's the way things work. There's been times where I've backed things off, where I'm like, yeah, this was a little too spicy, what I had in here, and I change it.
So you're just gathering data from classes and adjusting
Not
the
just
times.
classes, but I get a lot of feedback from people where they're, I mean, if I,
Oh,
if
that's
I,
true.
if I get like 15 emails, which this isn't unrealistic, I may get 15 emails over the course of 6 months where somebody said, hey, I'm really having a hard time making this part-time. Could you help me out with this? Because this one, this is hard. Like I can make these other ones, but not this one. And then, you know, I start thinking maybe the problem is me. Maybe the problem is the part-time is unrealistic.
Okay.
Maybe I was in a bad mood when I wrote that one and I was wanting to punish people. I'm not sure.
Like the weekend plate rack.
Exactly. Yeah, you experienced this, Kim. So yeah, we're out recording videos for a training group, and Kim's like, "Fuck, man, this weekend plate rack is crazy."
Okay.
But again, like there's trial and error that goes into these, and even coming up with a time to put down on something is sort of delicate. Like I don't want to take a personal best run and then put that and be like, this is the time standard. 'Cause
Yeah, of
that's stupid.
course.
But I don't want it to be too lame either. It has to be kind of all along the
Spicy.
same. Yeah, it has to be right, and that's a really hard thing to do. And I'm not afraid to adjust those things over time. Like that certainly happens.
Which is good. I mean, that's a good thing you do that, of course.
Yes. Yeah. So that's this is why this was on your mind today because I was sending you that stuff, right?
Yeah,
How do you come up with this? So now my focus is more on, as you can tell, I'm really leaning towards the more subjective skill tests because I
I've
think
noticed that.
those are a lot more flexible over time, especially in groups of people with disparate skill. Like I can look at people visually and assess the way the gun's moving and the way the
Mhm.
targets look, and as long as they're doing the drill, the correct pace or whatever, if they're shooting realistic match pace, or anybody's going to have points that you can assess, and it's like super easy for me. Uh, then the other thing that I really like, and kind of my goal with the more subjective stuff, is that people understand what they're doing wrong, so that when you go into the more objective skill tests, you know, you're
Yeah,
gonna, as you're assessing that, you're gonna understand what it is you're doing wrong, and what it is you could be doing better, as opposed to chasing the result and either you get it or you don't. Example, let's say you're doing El Pres and you want to make that, I think the kind of the par time I'd put on that right now is 5 seconds. So if you
that's
shoot,
fair.
yeah, if you shoot a good El Pres under 5 seconds shooting a production gun or a limited gun, like that's all right. That's all right. Yeah, you can go faster, but if you mess up your reload a little bit, you could still make it in 5 if you're a quick guy,
Hmm.
that sort of a thing. So if you're shooting that standard test, like let's say you want to shoot 10 hit factor, 11 hit factor, whatever it is, there's a certain amount of C's you can get away with. Maybe you can get away with a D depending on what your time
Hmm.
was. But if you understand what it looks like, feels like, and what the targets would look like, if you're dragging hits across the targets or transitioning imprecisely, if you understand what that looks like, then you're going to understand how to get better points as opposed to just banging on it all day until you get the numbers to look the way you want, which may just be luck that that happens.
It doesn't really accomplish anything.
Well, it accomplishes you getting the number you like and being confident and going home happy for the day.
Okay.
It accomplishes that. I mean, it's not nothing to know that you can do an L pres to the standard. That's not nothing. But
Okay.
it might get you where you want to go faster if you understand what's happening inside those time limits and the point limits. You get what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
that's why I've been tilting things more towards the subjective measures, because those things are very, very powerful tools that are going to make you better in all aspects of your shooting, as opposed to just on that one drill. These things apply to all drills.
I gotcha. I also like practical accuracy comes to mind, or doubles. Like you have drills that they will very I don't know what the right way to say it is. It really it'll like cram it down your throat if you're making marksmanship errors. It doesn't, like the drill is so precise where like you're shooting practical accuracy, you get lows. Like there's no doubt about it what's going on. Like you're pushing the gun or you're shooting doubles, you don't get the pattern you want, where it's like maybe if you're shooting El Pres, like, well, I don't know, maybe it's a transition, maybe it's a trigger control, maybe it's a grip issue. I like those grips that you have designed where it's like this, like you're looking for one little specific thing and you're really isolating that specific
Right.
skill.
So again, so I can tell you how that got developed. What I used to do in
Yeah.
classes was shooting dots, 2-inch
Hmm.
dots,
Yeah.
which is it's a great drill. But so the standard drill is 6 shots in 5 seconds onto a dot at 7 yards. That's the standard drill. That's really hard to do for GMs. It's hard, I'm sure you'd agree.
Yes.
That's a tough test. And so what you have to do if you're a GM guy, you're quick, you draw the gun fast, get the sights on target, and if you're shooting production, you shoot iron sights about the time where the gun's naturally going to be returning to. So like pop, 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 pop. The sights come back, you see the sight, pull the trigger again. So long as you're gripping the gun properly and controlling it, it'll stay on the dot. And if you're pulling the trigger straight, you won't be pushing shots off the dot. That makes sense?
Hmm.
Okay. But if you're not a GM, you're going to have a problem, because that drill is
Yeah.
I don't want to offend anybody. It's going to butt fuck you. Right? It's actually,
it
it's actually counterproductive to be working like at that time standard, that distance. It's crazy. It's
doesn't
stupid.
accomplish anything. Yeah.
No, you will not. I mean, you're not going to be improving your marksmanship, or like what specific points would you assess? Okay, hey man, the faster you draw, I mean, the more time you have for the shooting. But the faster you draw, the harder it is to nail that grip consistently. And then if your grip's not consistent, it's going to make it tougher to control the gun. But the core of the issue is that you're not pulling the trigger straight. So there's a lot of things happening, and it becomes difficult to really nail down what is it that I'm focusing on. What should I work on? And if you're an astute guy, if you're paying attention, you'll walk away from that drill and you'll be like, hey, there's 3 or 4 pieces of this that I need to work on. And that's if you're really paying attention and you don't get frustrated. There's a lot I need to do here. Most people are not going to be able to figure that out, or at least focus on exactly what it is they need to do. So me being me, to adapt this drill for a class, I started with, well, let's do it at 5 yards, because that'll just make things better. The sight alignment doesn't have to be as good, and the trigger press doesn't have to be as good at that range. And then let's do like a warm-up dot where it's just slow fire, make sure people can hit the dot with no time limit. Then we'll like draw and do 2 shots on a dot at 5 seconds. Everybody ought to be able to do that. And then we'll just make it a progression, like 2 shots, 3 shots, 4 shots, 5 shots. And then by the time you get to 6 shots on a dot, like that'll be something that the fast guys can do, but no one else can do. That sort of a thing. So if I'm explaining it and people are kind of paying attention, they're going to understand what their grip should feel like and their marksmanship should feel like. And they're going to see what happens when they get pushed to the point where they break. Okay, so that's the way I used to do it, which is fine. That was not a terrible strategy. It was okay. But then I was like, you know what? I really just want to work on like the main, like I think a better strategy here is let's work on the draw, do some dry fire. People draw the gun fast, get to their grip. Because what I haven't seen is, unless we stand there and do dry fire all day, which that's not really that interesting to me. We could stand there and do dry fire and have people try to improve their draw that day. Or we could just show people how to do dry fire and explain how that will improve their draw, do it for like 5-10 minutes, and then go back to doing other stuff. So we'll work on the draw piece, and then we'll work on the grip and trigger control piece separately. And that's what practical accuracy does. So it's like, hey, draw the gun. I don't really care how long that takes. Grip it right, and then get the sights in the center of the target, and then you're going to be shooting, and the pace you're going to shoot is when the sights come back, shoot again. That's it. So now everybody's on that same page. The time limit becomes sort of, if I put a time limit on it, it wouldn't matter anyway, right?
Yeah, it's irrelevant.
Yeah, it becomes irrelevant. So, all right, you just shoot at the pace of the sights coming back, and then we're really isolating that trigger control and grip mechanics. Okay, so now instead of one drill where there's 3 or 4 things happening and it's kind of confusing and you kind of have to understand a lot of things and be paying attention and not get frustrated in order to get anywhere, now you've got, hey, do your dry fire draws and then do this other practical accuracy drill where you figure out how you should be holding the gun and pulling the trigger straight, and you understand how that works, and then all you have to do is practice those things separately, and it shouldn't be that impossible to learn how to put them together, where you draw the gun fast, point at the center of a target, and then start shooting the gun straight. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that was my strategy for that. So then, like, I've addressed transitions and movement and shooting while moving and stuff. I addressed that all the same way. Where
I like that.
I'm sort of pulling the bits that are easy to assess on their own and having a hyper-specific drill for them. And then when you go to the standard exercises, you should understand, you at least understand what's happening inside of that. Yeah, so the way it used to be in shooting is just the type A guys would get good because, like for me, I learned to shoot with time standards. It was just like, hey, just figure it out, bitch.
Yeah, make it work. Here's the time.
Here's the time, figure it out. And it's like, oh, okay. I mean, there's easier ways. And that's why this kind of thinking is why people are getting good really fast these days. Is because, the understanding's more sophisticated now than it used to be.
I like it. Well, it's interesting.
Well, I mean, we're referencing a lot of drills here. Like, if people don't know what the fuck we're talking about with the drills, it's like, I mean, I totally understand. I'm sorry. I mean, if you haven't, read or studied what drills people are doing, then you wouldn't know. But if you have, you will know. This is just my drills, right?
Yes.
Although some of these drills have gotten out there into the world, like the dots, I think is kind of out there. The 4 aces is kind of out there. disconnected from me, where people would know where that's coming from. Yeah. But
Dude,
anyway,
I love 4 aces. I used to do that so much.
it's fun. It's a good one.
Oh, it's so much fun. I mean, you get to the point where you want to spike magazines at point, but it's fun.
Doesn't take me long to get there. All right. Joel, what do you got?
Good. Would be show and tell, but it's in my garage. So I practice quite a bit, and I don't enjoy cleaning up, and I like being efficient. So I know I'm high maintenance. This past summer, a friend gave me a brass mat for free. I thought it was a little dumb, but I decided to try it. I'd seen guys use them, and they always seem like they have brass scattered everywhere except on the mat. But I decided to try it anyway. So what I ended up doing was I spread the mat out. I started shooting at the first target. I would use this for static drills. I set out the target I was going to shoot at, shoot a couple rounds. Where does the brass go? I adjust the mat so they're centered up roughly. And I found out quickly how awesome it is. So once I adjust the mat, it's just good to go. Clean up super fast now because I just pick up each corner. The brass kind of goes to the middle, and that's it, done. So you don't even need to get anything advertised as a designer brass mat. I think the Pro Shop sells those. Just a cheap tarp from a hardware store, like Harbor Freight, is just as good. But I use that now for all static drills, like target transitions, doubles, practical accuracy, El-Pres, all that stuff, just to stand in and shoot stuff. And I probably would never spent the money for it otherwise, but now that I have one, I got one for free, I can't imagine not having one. So I think they're awesome.
Fantastic.
Dude, they're
That's
awesome.
what I do. That's what I do. I've been using that for a while because I shot a lot of doubles.
Yeah.
And I bring a gallon Ziploc bag, a plastic bag, and a gallon fits. If you can pretty much put 1,000 rounds, but then it can't rip, so it can hold 800 rounds no problem. So I just bring a couple gallon bags, and then just put the brass in there.
Yeah. Now that I have one, I'll always use one. They're awesome. If you're doing any form of movement, though, just forget it. Leave that in your trunk. But for static, just stand and shoot stuff. Try it.
All right. Jeff, you ready for your topic?
Oh, boy.
Sure.
All right, we got a question. My wife and I started to shoot USPSA 2 years ago and are trying to really get better. What are the most common mistakes you see new USPSA shooters make? And what would you suggest to fix them? We really enjoy your podcasts. That's so broad, right?
It is.
I feel
I don't
like-
know where to start with that.
Are they talking about live fire or dry fire or both?
I don't know, man. What I think is
Or matches.
what I think is they're fishing.
Okay.
I mean, they want what everybody wants. They want to hear, see, eat, whatever. Some really cool thing that they didn't even know existed before.
All right, Jeff, go.
I guess when you break it down, it's all about the fundamentals, right?
Yeah.
You watch people shoot crazy plans. You might want to try to emulate that at a match. But if the fundamentals aren't there, it doesn't matter how great of a plan you have, it won't work. So really, it's all about knowing how the gun shoots, knowing your grip, working on things like that.
That's way more important than I don't know.
Then any equipment you might spend money on, any big matches you want to travel to, I think those work on the fundamentals first, and that's
Yeah.
I think that's what's important. The one thing that always sticks out in my mind, I suppose, is one particular thing. If you watch a lot of people shoot, jerking a gun is very common. Pulling shots down low left is a very common thing to observe. And I see this especially with spouses who shoot together. The advice is very often shoot slower.
Yeah.
Right? You're
Yeah,
not getting
slow down
hits.
and get your hits.
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
getting
Guys,
mics.
I want to say something that might not be popular. I'm okay with that on match day. On match day.
Yeah.
But for training, that's stupid. You're not going to get any better doing that. You're just going to be slow.
But the problem is on match day as well, is most oftentimes you're having someone who's jerking a gun, and when they're being told to slow down, they'll slow down the shooting, they'll slow down the movement, but it doesn't take away the jerking of the gun. So now they're
No,
going to
of
shoot
course not.
slower,
Yeah,
get the same hits, and that's going to frustrate that person even more.
quit jerking the gun would be the better advice.
Yeah,
But I'm not sure they're going to know how to do that on match day.
no.
Man.
All right, I'll take the dry fire route then. People I think don't fully understand dry fire, and my little like rant would be dry fire is literally shooting the gun, but without ammunition. Like that means like you grip the gun just as hard as if you were shooting live ammunition. Yeah, you're playing like in your basement, like shooting at these little cardboard targets on the wall. I get it. There's no ammo and the gun's not going to go off, but you have to hold the gun hard like you are shooting live ammo. Because if you don't, you're just ingraining things that are not helpful and you're going to have to overcome. So, like, you know, like target transitions. Like, well, I'll just aim at the brown target and slap the trigger twice. Like, I'm shooting at the target. You know, yeah, I'm dry fire training. I'm getting better. It's like, well, what are you really doing? Like, pay attention to the sights. When you press that trigger back and it contacts the frame, if you were shooting live ammo, where did those bullets just go? Like at the target somewhere or at the A box, you know? So it's like dry fire is literally shooting without ammunition. And I think people need to treat it that way.
Yeah, I mean, look, when I'm thinking about new shooters, it's kind of like manage your expectations, and I don't mean that in a way like don't think you can't get where you want to go in shooting. Just like no, just have realistic expectations about, and usually this means people can do better than they think. Just understand what the sport is, kind of open yourself up to what it is you have to do and how people are. Understand the people at your club, you know, go to a club and you kind of understand where people are and why they are there. Um, you know, that's gonna like that sort of thinking about just trying to understand the world around you. It's gonna make you a lot smarter. So, for example, um, if you've never shot a gun before, you should go pair up with like a B class guy who's been shooting for 10 years, who like seems to be maybe he's the match director or friends with the match director, and that person can tell you what gear is going to work for you and help you learn how to load ammo. And usually they like doing that stuff, or they'll point you in the right direction. That's going to be great. But you don't want to be a 10-year B class shooter probably at this point, right? So that person is going to get you started, and then you need to move on from that and like figure out how it is you want to get where you want to go. Realistically, the top 10% of your club are the people who practice regularly. 90% of the guys at the club level, for the most part, they don't put in much effort and they don't get much out of it. Aside from fun, like you're gonna have fun, but they're not really good. So if you're really trying to get better, if you've been in this for 2 years, you should be in the top 10% of your club right now. If not, something's wrong. Is that fair to say, guys?
Yeah, and I would say actually, regardless of skill level, I'm more than happy to help somebody out that's really training and like wants to get better. Like I don't care if they're D class, C class, it doesn't really matter. But I will help anyone. I enjoy helping someone more that's really putting in the effort and trying to get better. So if you're putting in the effort and you ask,
just say you don't really like it when somebody asks you a specific question, you give them an insightful answer that is the correct answer, and then they proceed to ignore your advice and do what the fuck they wanted to do anyway. Like
that could happen.
that
Hypothetically,
annoys
that
you.
could happen.
It's not hypothetical. That's happened, and you don't like it. Just be real.
Facts.
Yeah, that's facts. Jeff, you know what I'm
Yeah,
talking about.
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, if you're training, you ask the top guys, they're going to want to help. They will help you or at least give you stuff to work on.
Yeah.
And when you work at it, you just like come back like, hey, I ran into this. What, like I did this problem. What would you suggest? Oh, well, I've probably done that before. This is what I would try. Or maybe they'll let you train with them once or something.
All right, guys, I want to tell you another thing. Last year, about this time, I got an email from a guy. He told me he's going to shoot 100,000 rounds. And he wants to be competitive nationally within 3 years. He's going to shoot 100,000 rounds a year. Does that sound realistic as a brand new shooter to have that as a goal?
Does he have life?
No, he was just put into a position where he did not need to have a life outside of shooting, but he had no real shooting experience.
Number of rounds you fire is irrelevant. It matters how you fire them.
I'm with you. So what would you say about that person's expectations? Don't think about it too hard, Joel.
Probably unrealistic expectations.
Where do you think this guy is
He
now? Where are they now?
potentially burnout or
Yeah, he's
set
gone.
himself up for
I think he
set himself
shot.
up for
I think he made it
heartbreak.
5 or 6 months into this plan and is now not shooting any longer. So manage, like, just understand the world around you. Like, you're not going to go shoot 100,000 rounds a year for 3 years, and then that gets you someplace you think you want to go. Like, that's not going to work. You
But
know?
that kind of wouldn't be fair. Like if I could just shoot 100,000 rounds and start beating Ben after he's poured like his life into the sport, that kind of like that wouldn't be really right either.
Well, I agree. Hopefully, God would come down from heaven and smite you for trying that. He'd be like, "Bam, Joel, you son of a bitch."
Yeah, exactly.
See, I forget that you guys don't have a black badge kind of thing down in the States. And
Oh man, it's just
you know what? I really don't mind that system we have here just because the basics of this is the gear you should have, this is the safety rules, this is how to handle a gun properly. That stuff is all covered. So when you see someone at match, you know that
Well,
they have
all right.
the basics.
We don't have that system nationally, but before I shot a match, I attended such a course. Before,
Is that common?
I don't think
I don't
so.
think so. No. My
No.
mom's pretty, pretty wired for sound on that. But yeah, no, it's not super common.
But the good thing about the sport is like there are people that will trip over each other to come show you what gun they shoot and talk to you about it or let you borrow their stuff.
Yes.
So
That
that's
and-
good.
Especially,
There's people willing to
especially
help
the
you.
female shooters, right?
Yeah, dude.
Like, yeah, you come over to my house after the match and I'll show you all my guns and stuff.
Dude, yeah, I mean, if you're a mid-30s chick with a muffin top or something, you're probably like a range 7 minimum. What? What? Is that
And
bad?
how about off the range?
You're being insensitive,
Probably
sir.
not a 7. Probably a substantially lower energy value.
Being insensitive.
Oh, I mean, we could be real, Joel. I mean, I'm
All right.
a 3. On or off the range, doesn't make any fucking difference.
It's 2.5 probably, but yeah.
See, it's okay. I mean, I understand. I have to. With ladies, I bring my wit and personality to the table. So maybe I'm more like a 1. I don't know. I'll send that poll out to a few ladies and see what they say.
Mm-hmm.
God, Jeff, man, I'm throwing zingers, Jeff. We're spitting fire tonight. And Kim is sitting silent. There's a reason everybody likes you, man.
I'm pretty new to the sport, so
He's Googling right now.
He's Urban Dictionary, range 7. What is that? What does that mean?
Joe, do you ever offer advice unsolicited?
I do not.
If it's somebody I know, like there are guys at my club that I know train a lot, and maybe they'll just say like, hey, if you see something, just let me know. I will.
That's not unsolicited advice, then, Joel.
Yeah, and that doesn't get done in public. Otherwise,
So no, you do not.
no. I'll say, my friend Nick. I do remember one time I watched. This was like when he was very first started shooting. He'll be listening to this. He like on every stage he shot this Glock 34, and he would pull out. He'd hit the button. He'd like tilt the gun sideways, hit the button, and then pull the magazine out and drop it on the ground, like for every one of his reloads. And so then we were the squad behind him. They were way backed up, so we were waiting around. So we were helping him reset the stage. I went and picked up all his magazines. I'm like, hey man, I'm like, just if you hold the gun just straight up and down and hit the button, it'll fall out. And he's like, oh yeah, I know. I need to work on that. I'm like that's that's really the only time I can imagine. Otherwise, no, I don't. Like I don't give people advice if they don't ask me. So I don't know how they'll take it anyway, and maybe they don't want to hear it. Just to be really like real talk.
No, I'm not against giving advice. I don't give unsolicited advice because I think it's kind of rude.
I agree.
I personally find it rude. Like I wouldn't want some person I don't know coming up to me like telling me this, that, or the other thing.
Or like if Jeff
It's
did
not
this, like this, shot this stage, and he's so excited for how it went, And I'm like, hey, you're really terrible at gun handling, right? Like that was genuinely awful. And he's
Wow.
so excited about how he just shot.
Yeah,
That would not be good.
it's like,
You
yeah.
know?
You're like, yeah,
It's like
I don't even want that in my brain, like watching you shoot, Jeff.
it's like I know you think you just did well, but you really need to work on these things. And they look at me like, who is this
Well,
guy?
that wouldn't be the best opener. Like, I know you, I think, oh, but that is the attitude of somebody giving unsolicited advice. Is like telling you how you think and what you feel without knowing you. That's great. Like, thank you.
But no,
That's not presumptive or annoying at all, sir. Thank you.
otherwise I would not. And then people that want advice, I would message them in private or say something to them, not in a group setting. Like, hey,
That's
you
in
folks.
Landy Besham's book.
Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay.
Public appraisal and private correction, whatever.
I don't know. I just think it comes off rude.
Hmm.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, in my younger days, I would push people really hard to shoot and like give them a lot of advice. And I remember one time I gave a guy a gun and supplied him with all the training ammo he needed in an effort to try to help his shooting career along.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't do that stuff anymore. It's just because if they really want to shoot, like what you can't give somebody is desire and motivation. So if you have desire and motivation, I don't need to loan you a gun. You got one. Probably have more than one, and you have ammo. So that step is
Yeah.
entirely
Otherwise, they
unnecessary.
will ask you, right?
Yes. Otherwise, I'll
Yeah.
ask.
So can you send me some ammo, please?
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually can.
Yeah.
Oh, please do.
Okay, I could.
Yeah,
It's not a
perfect.
problem.
Like you got my address, send it. Or just deliver it.
Yeah, send it. Yeah, I mean, yeah, there you go. That's since changed. If you were a range 7, Kim,
No,
still be
I'm
a no.
9.5. I am 9.5. Yeah, tall Asian dude. Oh.
People got the yellow
Oh, wait.
fever all over the place. It's crazy.
Somebody walk up to Kim with like one of those cheesy pickup lines like, I lost my number, can I have yours?
What's cheesy about that?
Never mind, it's been working great for you. That's cool.
Man, jeez. Nowadays, you're gonna get like me too if you do that shit, dude. You don't want to do that. Anyway, all right, guys. I think there's another bang up show. Really, some important nuggets of wisdom here. You can tell I'm getting a little tired because I'm talking crazy. All right, listeners, if you have a question you'd like us to try to answer, go to bensteger.com, fill out the contact form, submit that to me. The boys will be happy to address it. So anyway, guys, thank you for coming on. I do really appreciate it. It's nice to have a show, especially while I'm traveling, because I'll be away for a while and people will still have a show to listen to. Good, bad, or somewhere in the middle, they get a show. Well done.
Yay.
Yay.
Hey.
All right.